Hello, my Richies, and welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Strategy Sessions here on the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sara. I'm your host. And in today's episode, it's going to be a heavy one, but I know there are so many people out there struggling right now. I myself was one of them a number of years ago, and I want to make sure that we are supporting those that are finding themselves just at their wits' end with their life or with themselves. And they know that they need change and they know that they want change, but they're not really sure where to begin. Gosh, there have been a number of times throughout my life that feel markedly like it needed to happen for me to become the person that I am today. And this began in 2010. I had a really crazy betrayal that happened, and it truly rocked my world and made me realize that it doesn't matter how well you treat someone, you cannot, ensure that they're going to treat you in the same way. And this particular situation, this relationship ending, actually became the catalyst for me feeling for the first time ever the underlying anticipatory grief that I was holding on to regarding my father's illness that at that point had been 10 years within our lives. And I just was truly at rock bottom in this moment. My cousin was living with me at the time, and she'll recount often and send me a picture when like things are tough, and she'll be like, just remember where we've come from. Like we've come really far from this place. I should almost like, I'm just going to do this now so I can make a reel for this later to show you the true level of depression that I was in. And I really have a lot of compassion for that Sara that I was then, because I didn't know my ass from my face. I didn't know what to do next. I was just lost. Absolutely lost. So if you find yourself in a place where you're truly feeling lost, or you just feel like your life is not what you want it to be, or your life is not your own, then this episode might be a little helpful. I've pulled together all of the things that I've done since 2010 to kind of bring myself closer in alignment with who I am, what I'm about, what my purpose is, and just enjoying life. So I've taken a ton of notes. You're going to see me glancing at them if you're watching this on YouTube. I want to be clear. This is a really important episode. If there is someone you know struggling in your life right now, share this episode with them. Let them know that you are an open dialogue of communication if you are, and let them know that you see them and you know they're struggling and you're there if they need someone to talk to while they are working through life and figuring things out. So how do you recognize when you've reached your breaking point? Aside from what I would imagine are very physical indicators within your life, maybe burnout, maybe rage, maybe anger, maybe depression, maybe fits of crying, maybe anxiety attacks. These are signs of not only emotional burnout, but spiritual burnout. And I think there's a lot to be said about acknowledging that when you find yourself in this place, you're likely wondering what the point of it all is. And for me, that was where spirituality as a concept began. I really needed to take myself out of the state of victimhood, which was tiptoeing into martyrdom. And I needed to make a radical change within my life. And the first kind of thing that allowed me to do that was recognizing what it was around me that I didn't like. And the first thing was my mindset. My mindset was not where it needed to be. Everything was happening to me and not for me. And in recognizing that whatever is meant to be is always going to find me, that I need to look these challenges in the face and I need to find the lesson along the journey of getting through it day by day. That's also where the 1% concept came for me. I just wanted to get 1% better every day. I wanted to get 1% happier, 1% healthier, 1% more peaceful, 1% more full of grace, 1% more full of understanding, 1% more of belief. And the physical symptoms like the chronic fatigue and the absolute years of insomnia, feeling disconnected from the things that once brought me joy, these were really big signs for me that I truly just couldn't ignore. And they led me to wanting to get to know whether or not I found myself in a place where it felt like a temporary struggle or like this might have been a deeper life crisis. And for me, it was a deeper life crisis, which, was strange to have happening at such a young time in my life. But at such a young age, I'd already had so much happen within my lifetime and within my experience of life that I had a lot to process and I had a lot to consider and I had a lot to chip away at and grow through. It's something I'm actually very thankful for because I literally would not be the person that I am today had I not started this journey back in 2010. Now, in trying to figure out the difference between temporary struggles and a deeper life crisis, I needed to distinguish what normal life stress was, separate from existential crisis. And, it's a funny term that gets thrown around now in memes and like Prozac, like advertisements. But in all honesty, existential crisis is suffocating. And it's oftentimes one of those things that kind of just creeps up on you. You just feel like this dark lurking coming. And then before you know it, it's made a seat in your soul that takes time to unpeel and remove from you. And that's kind of also when survival mode starts to become your default setting and you're no longer yourself. You're no longer living from a place of peace and joy and passion and love. You're living from a place of fear, anxiety, mistrust, scarcity, just all of the nasty, like demonic feelings that are necessary in life, but certainly not one that you want to be staying with for long. Now, for me, hitting rock bottom and being in this place on the couch that my cousin so accurately, and I'm very thankful for, captured in the photo that she sends to me time and time again. But it really gave me the ability to get this concept of what I now call sacred desperation. I had no foundation that gave me belief or hope in a better day to come. And because I didn't have a belief in a higher power or something that would allow a better day to come, I really did stew in the fear and the anxiety of not only like, oh my gosh, am I going to wake up today to a text that my dad's dead, but like, will anyone ever love me? Like, am I ever going to find the right group of friends? Am I ever going to settle into my career? Like all the things that just bring you stress. And when they start to pile upon each other and you don't have the tools you need to help wade your way through them in a healthy manner, yeah, you can find yourself really hitting rock bottom. And there's a lot of psychological resistance that precedes this moment of rock bottom. But if you've ever been there, and there's absolutely no mistaking a rock bottom. We're not discussing like addiction rock bottom involving any kind of substances. It's just, are you sick of your shit or are you sick of waking up and feeling like this every day? Because if you are, you don't have to be, and we have options. I needed to also accept that I had to honor my suffering without identifying with it. And that was something that honestly didn't happen until 5 years ago, right after my father passed. Before that, I lived my entire life for my dad and his illness. And it took a while for me to recognize the danger that I had set myself up with grief, anticipatory grief, and suffering and sadness being my personality, because it became what people thought I wanted to talk about all the time. And in reality, it truly kept me from being able to lead an authentic life that was mine and present. And instead, I was just really attached to this identity of living for this person, never knowing when their last day would be. I also needed to witness my struggle with absolute empathy and compassion because it had been certainly something that I'd gotten used to doing, but I would just push down my feelings so deep inside that, as I said, I hadn't processed 10 years of anticipatory grief with my father's illness. And it only came out, and I thought I was dealing with feelings from a breakup. And in reality, it was feelings from my father being diagnosed with a catastrophic illness when I was young and not ever really getting to process that. So, what are the psychological frameworks for self-understanding that are going to get us out of this life that we dread? The first is understanding the role that limiting beliefs has in creating life patterns that can lead you down very dangerous pathways. Our childhood experiences absolutely shape our adult decision making capabilities. And if you haven't done any inner child work yet, I'd love for you to come back at least through the last 20 episodes. There's a number of episodes on inner child work, reparenting work, a ton of guided visualizations you can listen to that will help you out in that regard. But we need to be aware of techniques that can help us to identify unsubconscious limiting beliefs that have been implanted in us from an early age. Maybe someone told you that you were only good for something very early on in your life that you came to identify with, and not only identify with, but take on as your personality and your main characteristics of who you are. You have every right at any moment of your life to up and decide that who people told you were when you were younger at any point in your life is not who you are. And you alone get to dictate who you are and who you want to be and who you're going to become. So know that that is a power that you and you alone have for yourself, and no one can change that. And when you recognize that, you do truly unlock and open a locked door within yourself that gives you true, like, zero fuck with ability to do whatever you need to do for yourself in a way that's very empowering. Now, understanding your psychological defense mechanisms was something that I had to get very well acquainted with, because there were some protective behaviors from my childhood and my early adulthood that absolutely were limiting my interpersonal growth and communication wise with partners. Those close to me, I had a number of things that needed to be worked on, but I had to identify that they were there first, and I had to know why and where they came from in order for me to be able to rewire them to something that felt healthier and more natural and who I authentically am. We also want to give ourselves signs that our defense mechanisms are no longer serving us. They may feel good in the moment, especially when we're triggered for something, but there needs to be a come down period where you get to, in essence, take a review back on what you did in the situation and what your behavior was, and kind of have a conversation with yourself and let you know that this is not something that's helping you out anymore. You're not the same little person that you were when you created this habit for yourself. And you would be a lot better off if you were able to process it and move on to the next levels of whatever appropriate emotionally intelligent response is necessary for the age group you find yourself at currently inside with your inner healing. Now, there is a lot to be said about the intersection of trauma and identity formation, and unresolved trauma creates repetitive life patterns that can not only be dangerous, but can be downright evil to ourselves. Trauma informed approaches, when you are aware of what has happened to you and what has been done to you and what it has led you to do to yourself, are going to give you self-compassionate ways of going about healing and rewiring the parts of you that need help from the abuse that they had received, the anger, the rage, the violence, the scoffing. Maybe you were laughed at. Maybe the adults in your life didn't take you seriously. Maybe they didn't make time for you. Maybe they didn't love you. Maybe they made you feel like you weren't worthy. All of these things can be healed within yourself once you have self-compassion for the fact that, like, you were never meant to feel this way. Someone threw these feelings upon you based on their behavior or what they did or what they made you believe was the truth, but you were a kid and you had no idea what was going on at all. There's a lot of inner child work, and it goes hand in hand with healing in a way that's going to allow you to be able to rewire your life now away from what is making you feel so deeply disconnected from it and like it is not your own. And when you're able to recognize that your inner child is running the show, namely when you're triggered, you're feeling unsafe, upset, unheard, unseen, unloved, it gives you the ability to start then laying down very simple practices that are going to help you reparent yourself with love and kindness that you may not have gotten when you very deeply needed it at a younger age. And as I said, I have a ton of episodes that you can link to and look at just within the last year. So the last 30 or 40 episodes, there's a good amount of them in there that are going to help you with that. Now, what are the spiritual perspectives on personal crisis? Because this was a really big time for me where I just started talking to the universe. I wasn't comfortable speaking to God, certainly wasn't comfortable speaking to Jesus. And that's something that I'm currently working on and going through now. But the concept of the dark night of the soul is one that spans across traditions and religions. And man, if there were ever an identity or a personality that I could vibe with, it was dark night of the soul, because I constantly found myself in grief, pain, suffering, sadness. And it was really difficult for me to find anybody else that felt that way outside of like historical spiritual figures or just like characters in TV shows. Like, we never get to really see individuals in real life living their pain and their suffering out loud. And it was difficult to go through that for so many, many years. And wow. That was a big old crazy jet that just scared all the birds away. Sorry for that. It would have been cool for me to see other people suffering in a way that made me feel less alone. And that became something that I absolutely decided to share about a year before my father passed away, because we need to talk more about real life things. Real life things are the actual point of life. All of this other stuff is just fluff that leads to you buying stuff or feeling bad about yourself, which leads to you buying stuff. So fight the system and heal your soul. Finding meaning in suffering is absolutely a key to unlocking all of the secrets of life and getting ahead in it and enjoying it while getting ahead in it. But one of the first times outside of my father's illness that I was able to really deeply tap into the concept of suffering was through Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. My Lord, that book was absolutely gut wrenching, and it taught me a lot about perseverance and resilience, and the fact that like we all have what I now call our cross to bear, in my Christianity journey. And, Viktor Frankl's book, if you haven't read it, Man's Search for Meaning, is absolutely going to help you to connect with deeply within yourself on the things that bring you pain and suffering. And it's going to bring some stuff to the surface and help you really recognize, like, wow, I don't need to bear this weight. I can look it in the face. I can love it. I can heal it, and I can let it go, and I can feel lighter as a result. Now, the purpose of our pain is finding the transformation line. There's always going to be a moment where we are able to gather some like gleaning of wisdom, and it's going to feel really hard in the moment. But the harder the moment, the bigger the sacrifice of that lesson that just came through for you. And know that it was there in that moment for you to pick it up and hold on to it. Even if you don't find yourself in a place where you can really process it, digest it, make it a part of you, keep it close. Remember it. There will be a moment where you are able to tap into that, and that will be the moment that you needed that aha to unlock from that memory. Now, what's the role of surrender in spiritual growth? Coincidentally, surrender is my word for the year. I picked it in December, the beginning of December. That was really what led me on my Christ consciousness journey, just leading down the path of reading the Bible, getting to know historically more about that time frame. I grew up in a completely non-religious household. We loved and worshiped nature and ecosystems and animals and, being kind. So I had a great foundation there, but my goodness, there's so much of life that I wasn't aware of just simply because I wasn't aware of the Bible and a lot of the histories and teachings that are attached to it. And the paradox of gaining control by letting go and surrendering is something that I did not fully grasp until earlier this year, where I fully surrendered. There was a moment where I felt very out of control and just did not like the fact that I had no control over, something that we all had to deal with this past year happening. And drones were the thing that kicked it all off for me in the conversation of like, oh my gosh, is this like, is this another country and this is hostile? Are these aliens? Is this our own? Like, what's going on? This is so like disheartening and scary. And it was so weird because I was literally living underneath of where these things were flying every night, seeing crazy orbs and crazy lights, and things just were just mind boggling, truly mind bending. It was hard for my brain to decipher what I was looking at most nights. And my husband and I have since become very acquainted with it, and we communicate with it and we enjoy it. But like, my goodness, at the time, it really rocked my world about what I believed, and it scared me. And it made me start wondering about angels. And then my husband saying, oh, well, there's like balls of light, what we're seeing out over the bay in front of our house in like historical paintings about the time of Jesus and angels and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, what? Say less. So I started reading the Bible so I could find the passages about the angels that look like UFOs, because we were physically looking at them. And that was something for me that I also found to be very crazy, because everybody around us just quit caring about it. And I'm like, but wait, this thing is still here every night. I can communicate with it if I want. Like, what? We don't care anymore. We're that numb. We give up that quick. And that kind of led me further down the rabbit hole of listening to the Hallow app every day. And I'm 200 lessons in. And, my heart is opening and softening to the thought of surrendering to a higher power. And just, we have no control anyway. Literally none. All we can do is heal and get better and try to make better decisions for ourselves. But the outcome's completely out of our hands most times, all times. And that sentiment of, and the paradox of literally feeling out of control by letting go, but then gaining control because there's a confidence and a understanding and a faith and a belief in you that comes to life and really does allow you to trust in your life's unfolding in a way that allows you to connect to something larger than yourself and transcend these amazing experiences that shape you into the next version of who you're meant to be. And I've got a number of daily practices that you can do to help to cultivate this more spiritual side of yourself. Please, again, comb through the life that is this podcast. We have guided visualizations. We have mantras over Hertz tracks, beautiful made Hertz tracks that are, the love frequency. They're meant to tap you into the love of the universe, which is God, the universe, the Almighty, the Creator, the Source, whatever you feel comfortable giving in vernacular for this relationship that you'll have. So many tools for you to use to do that. So let's get into these tools and some integrative healing processes and approaches that you can take when trying to get yourself away from a life that you just don't recognize anymore, that just doesn't feel like you, that is feeling like an absolute betrayal to who you really know yourself to be. And here comes that loud ass jet again. So, bridging the mind and body in the healing process is huge. And oftentimes, this is where people start to see the biggest bursts of incremental growth. Because once you understand the science of somatic experiencing and what our feelings do to our body and how that locks in and then locks into our psyche over time with what's happened to us, you're going to be able to take some really simple body-based practices and start releasing a lot of that stored tension. So that could be somatic movement, that could be yoga, that could be stretching, that could be breath work, meditation, so many things. And taking these daily rituals and creating daily rituals for yourself, they're going to help to support your transformation, is going to give you not only the power of starting your day off on the right foot that you need, that you know works for you, but also giving yourself evening reflection time to go over what your day was, how you reacted to certain things. What was your 1% increase for the day? What was your 1% decrease, right? Because life is not linear. We're going to fluctuate. We're going to ebb and flow in our growth throughout our lifetime. And that is just a reality. There's also the beauty of having a community around you and the connection of healing that will come from that and the sharing of that. There's so much research on social connections and well-being. I have a ton of episodes on that as well. And in finding your support groups, in your tribes, in your spiritual communities, there are going to be others there that have either been where you are now and have moved away from that through growth, or are where you are and they are looking for others in that same place to, not only have someone to see themselves in, but have someone to support and have strength in over this thing that we all experience throughout various periods of our life. I myself have started a number of groups and a number of classes so that I can heal in community with others. And I tell you, it's so rewarding and it's so fun. And there's never a day that at the end of it, I'm not just so thankful and so excited that these people trusted me with their day and their time to come and hang out and to be open and honest with me and share their life and their journey and their struggles. I encourage you to try it. There are also a number of holistic self-care things that are beyond the trends of super wellness, right? And we can differentiate between numbing practices and true self-care practices. But you always want to create a personalized self-care inventory of the things that feel right to you. There are also a number of practical tools that you can utilize within your life to help you break these patterns. And maybe these habits and patterns are part of what has kept you and led you to this place in your life where you just feel so absolutely disconnected from who you are and who you want to be. So we have mindfulness practices, right? We all know about that. But these mindful practices are going to help you interrupt the automatic responses that have worked themselves into the neural pathways in your brain. I have so many episodes about this, about rewiring your brain, about the neural pathways, why they're there, how they protect us, and also how they can help us to flourish and grow in success and healing and happiness. So there's the 90-second rule for emotional regulation, and it is very simple to remember. It's called the RAIN method: recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So when you feel yourself triggered or feel yourself being pulled towards agitation or fear or upset, you want to first stop and recognize that you're feeling this feeling. This is huge. Even just getting to that step and then continuing on with your habit a few times is okay. Completely understandable. It's going to take time for this to become like that. Next, you want to allow yourself to feel the feelings that come with the recognition of like, okay, I just caught myself feeling triggered. I'm going to allow myself to feel this feeling for just a moment. And while I'm feeling this feeling, I'm going to start to ask myself questions of why I'm feeling this feeling. Why does this feeling exist? Where did it come from? Then I'm going to nurture myself with the understanding of that answer. And I'm going to walk myself through feeling better about it. And this is the reparenting part of the RAIN approach method that helps make this become more automatic every time you feel yourself being triggered. And then eventually there will come the moment where you are able to get immediately to the nurturing phase because you recognize what triggered you, you know where it came from, you understand and know that you can get through this, and you just do that reparenting over and over and over again. You can also journal. Journaling is so much fun. I have a class. It's a guided visualization class with journaling and some discussion afterwards. And holy moly, the healing that is happening in these classes is absolutely amazing. And I know not all of you can come and take the class in person, obviously. So I will be putting together an online class for this summer, and I'll let you know all about that. So you have plenty of time, and it'll be really fun. But journaling, being able to dialogue with different parts of yourself, creating shadow work prompts to uncover any hidden motives you may have from any inner healing from your childhood days that is left over and needs to be dealt with. We also have the ability to create healthy boundaries for yourself and others. If you know that you have a certain person within your life that's going to get you upset, or you know that you don't have the ability to hold your temper with a certain person, while you're working on these parts of yourself and strengthening these things for yourself, you may want to put some boundaries in place. Creating a healthy boundary is not only going to allow you to ease into different phases and types of communication with others, but it's going to keep you safe and in a place of being able to recognize when you are being agitated, allow yourself to take stock of these feelings, investigate where they came from, and then nurture yourself through the process with reparenting. Finally, visualizations, my favorite healing technique, and harnessing visualizations allows you to embody what you want to feel in the future. It's also a very safe space for you to feel things from the past that are absolutely scary or terrifying and typically send you into a tailspin of reaction. We want to use the body through guided visualization to start feeling the feelings of things that we either wish to have happen in the future or feelings that we wish we could have felt in the past. And it is just a really beautiful way to allow your body to help your brain to create new neural pathways that are going to continue to keep moving us forward with the intention of rebuilding ourselves in the way that we envision for our life. Now, one way that we can go about moving forward away from this life that really is just disturbing every part of who we feel we really are is crafting a personal mission statement. You want to ask yourself some questions that are going to help you to clarify what your core values are. And you want to align daily choices and daily activities with this deeper purpose that is aligning with these core values of who you are. Now, you're going to need to visibly and physically develop a little bit of resilience for inevitable future challenges, right? This is going to happen over and over again. Healing is not linear, ebb and flow, up and down, right? So get to know and become comfortable with the concept of post-traumatic growth. There are going to be bad things that happen to us in life, and there will be physical reactions that happen, even if you believe you are over it and you're ready to move past it, that you may also need to deal with that haven't been addressed. So know that there will always, not always, but there are potentially moments where you can feel very pulled back in your healing because there's something lingering there that needs looking at. And by building your personal resilience toolkit with all of the things we discussed and the number of things that I have in past episodes that you can listen to help you not only get through this journey in a way that feels safe, but one that feels worthy and valuable, and one that, feels like it was meant to be. You're going to find yourself in the space of what you've been dreaming of so soon. And being able to have this toolkit to pull from time and time again is absolutely going to get you there a lot quicker. We also want to be sure to find the balance between acceptance and change, because with that nonlinear growth path, there is going to be a lot of you feeling very different feelings about yourself. And we want to, almost give ourselves the ability to accept like what we cannot change, that serenity prayer, right? Like give me the ability to accept the things that I cannot change, and you know when I can change things, and know when I can make a difference for myself, and when I need to relinquish myself from the thought of being able to change things because I can. We also need to embrace and deeply understand our current level of discernment, and whether or not our discernment is something that is going to help us to keep growing in a proper direction. Discernment is one of those personality traits that we can embolden and strengthen within ourselves, and discernment is absolutely going to help you to make better choices over time. Now, embracing the ongoing nature of our healing journey is something that can get some getting used to, but in moving beyond the fixed growth mindset, like, oh, I can't do this, must be nice, oh, blah, 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 all the excuses, da, 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 you find yourself in a place to where, no, I can do this. No, I want to do this. No, I'm ready to do this. Okay, great. Let's do this. By creating these sustainable practices for yourself, you are absolutely guaranteeing continued evolution, 1% a time, 1% a day, a week, a month, a year. And I would absolutely love to be clued in on anything you care to share about where you found yourself before this episode, and if any of these practices have helped you to get to the next 1%. My Richies, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to have your attention every episode 3 times a week. I am so very thankful for your time. And as always, make life rich.